Discover the heartwarming moment when a millionaire enters the wrong apartment and sparks an amazing friendship. Jake Thompson was knee-deep in tools, his worn hands sifting through a cluttered box, when the door swung open, and in strode a woman clad in designer attire. Her high heels clicked sharply against the worn wooden floor, breaking the silence like an unexpected clap of thunder. "Excuse me?" she said, her perfectly manicured nails poised on her hips. Her name was Laura Bennett, a billionaire who mistook Jake's humble apartment for her own, a misstep that would change their lives forever. At first, Jake thought she was just another rich person, probably oblivious to the dust swirling in the corners and the faded wallpaper peeling from the walls. But then he looked at her, really looked. Her eyes, though glimmering with confidence, held the weight of something unspoken, something he recognized: loneliness wrapped tightly in a glossy exterior. "This isn't your place, ma'am," he stammered, surprise tangling with irritation at the disruption of his day. As they spoke, the initial tension softened. They shared the warmth of a sunny afternoon as they came together over stories of love and loss. Over a simple cup of coffee, both began to peel back layers that hid their raw truths. Jake, worn from the weight of supporting his elderly father and nurturing his daughter's sky-high dreams of art school, could sense that same longing in Laura. It turned out that under the sheen of her fortune, she too bore scars, those of expectations and setbacks that suited neither their wealth nor their hardship. Soon enough, an unlikely partnership began to form. Laura's resources and ambition began to merge with Jake's hands-on knowledge of the community. Together, they set out on a grand initiative to breathe life back into the crumbling local park, a stretch of land that had once been the heartbeat of the town. As the days passed, they hammered away at broken benches and planted vibrant flowers, their laughter mingling with the scent of freshly cut grass. Through this effort, they uncovered stories hidden beneath the surface: a veteran yearning for recognition, a mother fretting over rising bills. The small-town pulse began to echo with revived energy, but not everyone in town welcomed the changes. Whispers swept through the diner like wildfire, fueled by old prejudices and suspicion about Laura's wealth. "What does she know about our struggles?" some would scoff, their voices thick with disdain. As Jake faced his neighbors, torn between friendship and the looming specters of judgment, he felt that familiar tightness in his chest. Would he stand by Laura, dismantling the walls of bias, or slip into the comfort of acceptance by turning his back, just as revitalization efforts hit a snag, creating an explosive atmosphere of betrayal? A spark ignited in the hearts of the townsfolk. Acts of kindness began to rise in unexpected ways, a testament to community spirit clinging to life. Standing before his neighbors, Jake sensed the weight of his choice more than ever. In that moment, he felt the gentle push of hope dance between duty and friendship. "Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen." Now let's continue. As tension hung heavy in the air that day, Jake braced himself for a confrontation that could either tear them apart or bring the town together. The choice was his. What would he decide? Jake stood at the edge of the small crowd, the murmurs washing over him like a cold wave. Faces he had known all his life were now filled with expressions he didn't recognize: skepticism, anger, and hurt. He flashed a quick glance at Laura, standing beside him, her posture a mix of defiance and vulnerability. She was his ally, yet the townspeople saw nothing but an outsider, a threat to their comfort. "What do you want from us, Laura?" an older man shouted from the back, his voice slicing through the tension. "We're doing just fine on our own." Jake's heart raced. He felt the weight of the community's doubts pressing down on him, but he couldn't allow them to form a barrier between him and the changes they had worked so hard to bring. "This is about more than just a park." Jake stepped forward, catching the eyes of each person. The rhythm of their hearts echoed around him. "It's about us. All of us." Laura turned to him, her expression softening but still burdened. He could read the turmoil beneath her composed surface. She was scared too, worried that her efforts could be a step too far. Slowly, He nodded to her, silently urging her to trust him. Look, I know you don't trust me, Laura began, her voice steady but sensitive. And I get it. I may have money, but this isn't about that, it's about giving this community what you all deserve. She paused, eyes scanning the crowd, seeking softness in hardened gazes. It's about dreams for kids, for families, for everyone. Jake felt a spark when he heard the catch in her voice. This wasn't just a pitch, it was a plea. The silence grew thick, heavy with possibility. Remember when we had picnics in the park? When kids ran around without a care? She pressed. Can we really let that go? Hesitation lingered in the air, filling the space with an unexpected tension. And then, a hand shot up from the side. It was Emily, a single mother known more for her resilience than for her gains. What if it doesn't work out? She asked, sincerity etching worry across her face. Jake felt the knot in his stomach twist tighter. What if it does? He called back, voice steady despite the fear that loomed. What if we can create something beautiful together? A ripple of murmurs exploded in the crowd. He watched as the walls that stood between them began to tremble. People leaned in, curiosity pierced the air. Hope bloomed slowly, flowers unfurling in springtime. Let us give it a shot, Jake continued, feeling buoyed by the momentum. If we fail together. But if we succeed, imagine what we could do. Slowly, heads began to nod. Encouraged, Laura stepped forward, her eyes searching the sea of faces. And I'll be with you every step of the way, no matter what it takes. Just then, a flicker of a smile broke on Emily's lips. You really mean that? Of course, Laura replied, her genuine tone washing over everyone, stoking the embers of a shared dream. As conversation ignited around the park renovation, an undeniable shift in energy surged forward, pulling them closer together. Jake's heart soared, maybe they could do this. Maybe the town, against all odds, would unite, but just as the spark of hope glimmered, a shadow fell. The town mayor, a stout figure respected yet feared, loomed at the edge of the cluster, his arms crossed, skepticism carved into his features. And what makes you think we should trust her? Jake felt his pulse quicken. The mayor's words threatened to draw the walls back up, but deep down he knew this was just the beginning. He had taken a step into the unknown, but there was no turning back now. Because together, we can build more than just a park, he shouted above the din. We can build a bridge. Would the townspeople throw their weight behind them, or would judgment win out in the end? The path ahead was murky, and the stakes felt higher than ever as the tension between hope and fear crackled in the air. What would Jake and Laura face next as they fought against the odds? The mayor's question hung in the air, turning hope into ice. Jake could feel the crowd's energy shift. He glanced around, catching the uncertainty washed over familiar faces. Would they turn back to old habits, the status quo? It was now or never. Let us be honest, folks, Jake said, his voice slicing through the fog of doubt. This isn't just about Laura. This is about whether we're ready to let someone in, whether we're willing to lend our trust to one another. Some murmurs spread through the crowd. People shifted nervously, their jaws tightening. Laura stepped closer to him, her eyes fierce. You know that trust isn't given freely. It's earned, she said. And I'm willing to earn it. This is the beginning of something bigger. We can transform our town. You can transform me. From the far corner, old Mrs. Dawson, who had been watching silently, finally spoke. I remember you, Laura. You used to play with the kids down by the creek. You were one of us back then. Her voice wavered with nostalgia, bringing a collective murmur among the townspeople. Jake saw the tension crack, just a little. That's right. Emily shouted, emboldening others. We remember who she is, not just what she has. Maybe we could work together. Jake caught Laura's eye, and in that moment, a silent understanding passed between them. They didn't just need the backing of the crowd, they needed to forge a bond that could bridge their past and future. Imagine, Jake urged, his voice steady, a place where children play, where families gather, and the old memories mesh with new dreams. A park isn't just soil and grass, its spirit. Its laughter, its connection. As he spoke, something began to shift. People stood a little taller. Someone, he couldn't tell who, nodded determinedly. Let us picture it, Jake continued, locking eyes with Laura. What if, instead of fear, we chose courage? What if we allowed room for hope? We have this chance. Take it. He sensed the air within the crowd sparking with a new intensity, an awakening shift. The mayor's arms shifted from crossed to simply hanging at his sides. As he stepped closer, Jake was surprised to see kaleidoscopes of faces looking back at him, curiosity breaking through skepticism. Listen, the mayor finally said, his tone less rigid, though still demanding. What makes you think you can guide our community and not just dictate? Jake leaned in. Because I believe this is our community. If you let us in, we'll plan, we'll create the park together. You'll have a say. This isn't just Laura's ideas or mine, it'll be a vision created by us, for us. With that, a woman stepped forward, her hands shaking slightly. If we're going to do this, we should bring everyone in, right? What about the kids? The businesses? Yes. Laura piped in, her voice ringing with optimism. We need a series of community meetings. Each voice counts in this project. We build trust through conversations. Jake felt the collective heartbeat of encouragement rise as faces brightened. The initial resistance was turning into acceptance. It felt electric. Just as momentum surged, a sudden crack of thunder echoed in the distance, sending a shiver through the crowd. You know, bad weather can fade away, Jake said, forcing a smile to lighten the mood. So, what do you all say? They were close, he could feel it. But in that charged moment, something slipped. From behind the mayor, a figure stepped forward, a journalist, flanked by cameras. We'd like to get a soundbite of your grand vision, Laura. A wave of apprehension swept through the crowd again as eyes roamed to the cameras. Suddenly, it wasn't just about hope anymore. It was about image, perception, scrutiny. Jake's heart sank. Would they retreat under the spotlight? Could they keep their momentum alive with an audience now watching? Trust isn't easy, Laura murmured, her voice barely audible over the sudden clicks of cameras. Jake took a deep breath, ready to rally the crowd again, but could he reinvigorate their courage? The weight of the moment pressed down on him as uncertainty flickered in his gut, and then, he realized, something deeper was at stake than just a park. It was everything they stood to gain or lose together. Would this moment define them or catalyze their unity? As the cameras pointed their lens, the very air around them became charged with anticipation. What would Jake do next to keep hope alive in a way that wouldn't just become a momentary flash but a lasting legacy? Jake stood there, heart racing, illuminated by the flash of cameras and the murmurs of the crowd. It was a pivotal moment, a turning point where every second mattered. He could feel the collective heartbeat of the town pressing against him, waiting, watching. Laura, Jake began, locking eyes with her, this is your chance to speak to everyone, the opportunity to show them who you really are. But Laura hesitated, uncertainty flickering in her gaze. The weight of the cameras made her shoulders slump slightly. She wasn't just a participant, she was now the face of this movement, and it felt heavy. People want to see authenticity, Jake urged gently, his voice low enough so only she could hear. Show them that you're ready to earn their trust. Laura took a deep breath, straightening up as she felt his encouragement. Okay, she said, her voice steadier now. She stepped closer to the group, the cameras swarming around her. How many times have we felt neglected? How many times have we watched new faces come and go, each time hoping for change that never came? The crowd grew silent, and Jake sensed this was a crucial moment. He could hear the rustle of fabric, the coughs and sniffles, a tapestry of shared experience weaving through them. Laura continued, her strength building. I came back because I want to be part of this. I want to offer a place for our families to gather. A space to play without concern. A park that reflects us, our joys, our struggles, and our dreams. A tentative applause echoed in the background, warming the air between them. Jake allowed himself to breathe, feeling the tide of hope swell as people began to nod in agreement. This isn't about my past or my privilege, Laura pressed. This is about forging a new path, one where we all contribute, where each opinion is valued, and every child has a place to run free. The mayor shifted his weight but remained silent, evaluating the shift in energy around him as the townsfolk leaned in closer, emboldened by Laura's words. Then, Jake stepped forward, sensing the escalation. "Let us move beyond talking about change," he said, his hands gesturing toward the crowd. "Let us start making it happen. How can we bring the kids' voices into our planning? What are the business owners hoping for?" He watched as a man from the back shouted, "We need more youth programs." "Yes." Another chimed in, "And don't forget about creating jobs. It's a chance to make things better for everyone." Eyes glimmered with excitement. Momentum was building, whispers of ideas broke through the tension like cracks of light through a storm. Jake felt the wave of unity wash over them, then suddenly, a powerful bolt of lightning split the sky, a reminder of the storm brewing above them. But instead of retreating, laughter erupted from the crowd, a vibrant thread binding them against the ominous backdrop. "This weather doesn't scare us," Laura declared, rallying the crowd's spirits, her confidence igniting in the face of fear. "Let us create something fierce together." As the applause grew louder, Jake caught the mayor's eye. The man's expression, once hardened and skeptical, was beginning to soften. Just then, the journalist stepped in closer, hoping to catch more of the raw energy surrounding them. "So, how do you feel about all this newfound excitement, Mayor?" she asked, making sure the camera captured every flicker in his expression. The mayor hesitated, then turned, weighing his choice. Jake held his breath. Would he embrace this new tide or let it crumble beneath expectations? At that moment, everything hung in balance. The hopes of the town breathed life into the air, thick with anticipation. Would the mayor seize this chance to rally behind them, or would he take a step back, leaving the community to forge its path alone? Laura and Jake exchanged a look, aware that the upcoming decision would set the course for everything that followed. Would they all step up to the challenge together, or would fear grip them once again? As the crowd held its breath, the future teetered on a knife edge, waiting for the mayor's next words. Would they turn toward possibility or retreat into doubt? The mayor finally cleared his throat, and the crowd leaned in closer, straining to hear his response. I hear you all," he began, his voice wavering ever so slightly. "Change isn't just a word we throw around on election day. It requires action and commitment." Jake felt an electrifying jolt of hope. Could this be the moment? "I've seen how hard this community has fought for better days," the mayor continued, his tone gaining strength. "And it's clear you have ideas worth exploring. I will support the changes you want to see. We can work together." Cheers erupted, the sound rising like smoke from firewood. Jake turned to Laura, her face shining with disbelief and joy. They both knew this was the beginning of something immensely different. "Who's with us?" Laura called out, her voice echoing with newfound passion. The response was immediate, a wave of hands thrust into the air, voices shouting, "Yes, we are." Energy cascaded through the crowd like a rushing river, but then the weather reminded everyone of its presence once more. The wind picked up, howling ominously. Dark clouds rolled in, a stark contrast to the budding hope surrounding them. "Let us go inside," someone shouted, but Laura shook her head. "No. We're not done here." She took a step closer to the edge of the makeshift platform and raised her arm dramatically. "Let the rain fall on our ideas. We're going to keep pushing, keep fighting for our voices. Even if the storm rages on around us." Her words resonated deeply. Laughter mixed with the dim rumble of thunder, and the crowd held its ground, refusing to be swayed by the brewing storm above. Around them, conversations sparked to life. People began brainstorming practical solutions, setting up committees, holding meetings, including young voices in planning discussions. Jake marveled at the camaraderie forming, the palpable connection among them. They stood tall, united by a fire burning brightly in their chests. Ideas flew back and forth, melted fears dissipating into a collective vision for their future. Just as Jake was beginning to feel like they could really do this, his phone buzzed in his pocket. He glanced down to see a text from his boss, demanding an update on their community engagement project. The weight of responsibility crashed down on him. How could he juggle his corporate commitments while fueling this community's dreams? But deep down, Jake knew what he had to do. His heart said to stay here, to fight alongside these people, but the logistics of the corporate world loomed large in his mind. Suddenly, he felt Laura's hand on his shoulder, grounding him. "What is it?" she asked softly, concern etched on her features. Jake had a choice to make: prioritize the expectations of the corporate world or dive headfirst into this vibrant, transformative moment with the community. He looked at Laura's hopeful eyes and the crowd surrounding them, even the storm above rattling their resolve. A decision loomed before him, as heavy as the clouds swirling above, and in that moment, he felt the weight of purpose pressing against his chest. "Laura," he said finally, "I think we need to make a commitment, a promise to this community." Her eyes flickered with curiosity. "A promise that this is just the beginning and..." He hesitated, feeling unsure but determined. "That we won't turn our backs when things get complicated." As he spoke, he sensed the tides turning around him, anticipation crackling in the air. Jake's heart hammered. Would the bond they had forged through struggle and excitement hold strongest when the storm hit? A distant rumble of thunder roared outside. Laura nodded, her expression fierce. "Absolutely." And with that one word, they realized they were kicking off a movement larger than themselves. But then, they all heard a loud crack overhead. The crowd gasped and turned in unison, watching as a huge branch split from a nearby tree, spiraling down towards them. Would they stand firm or scatter? Would they let fear take root, or hold fast to the vision they had just begun to form? Jake felt his pulse race, the decision made. In a split second, a challenge awaiting them, drenched in rain and resolve. The branch came crashing down, slamming into the ground just a few feet away from Jake and Laura. Leaves and debris showered around them, and the crowd stumbled back, panic flashing in the eyes of many. Jake's heart raced, and he instinctively pulled Laura closer, shielding her as best he could. A hush fell over the gathering, as though the storm itself had paused, holding its breath in anticipation of what would happen next. The cheers from moments before faded, replaced by a tentative stillness, the thrill of hope clashing with the sudden threat of danger. "Stay together," Laura shouted, her voice cutting through the silence. Her determination was infectious. Slowly, like a slow-rolling wave, people began to regroup, reassured by her spirit. Jake felt a surge of pride for her courage. She wasn't letting fear take over. "Are you okay?" he asked, looking at her to check for signs of shock or fear. "I'm fine," she replied, her voice resonating with strength, unfazed by the chaos. "We've come too far to let anything get in our way now." Just then, a few people from the crowd, inspired by Laura, began to chant. "Stand firm. Stand together." The chorus swelled, invigorated by the call to resilience. Their voices soared above the ominous wind, creating a powerful affirmation that rippled through them all. Jake could feel the energy building again, rekindling the hope that threatened to extinguish in the wake of the incident. The so-called storm wasn't just the one brewing above, it was the storms they all carried inside, filled with uncertainty and past wounds. But together, they could turn that into a torrential force of change. "Let us use this," Jake said, joining in on the encouragement. "Let us rally. We've faced storms before, we can face this one too." As the voices grew louder, he saw eyes lighting up with hope, reflecting the determination that had sparked within him and others. Laura beamed at him, her spirit lighting the path ahead. They began huddling again, forming a tighter circle in the face of the rain beginning to pour down, droplets splashing on the asphalt like tiny reminders of their commitment. "Let us talk about our plans," someone suggested, raising their voice to rise above the gathering storm. "Let us not let a little rain spoil our dreams." Inspired, the group dove into ideas again: how they could approach city council, organize town hall meetings, create youth engagement programs. With each suggestion, the fear wafting in the air slowly transformed into an electric atmosphere of resolve. They collectively envisioned a town meeting under a sturdy roof, an unwavering structure to reflect their newly born unity, but Jake noticed a deep frown on Laura's face amidst the discussion. "What is it?" he asked, worry lacing his tone. I know our fight will be met with resistance," she said quietly. "What if they don't take us seriously? What if we fail?" Her fears echoed through the group like shadows in the rain. Jake understood the weight of her questions. Doubts crept in, knocking at the door of hope they had all just built together. He felt his own uncertainty rise, but he took a deep breath, grounding himself before he spoke. "At least if we fail, we'll have tried. We'll have each other," he replied, his voice steady. "That's far more than most are willing to offer. We can strive for something greater than ourselves. It's about the generations that will come after us." He felt the energy shift again, renewed by a shared purpose. The rain was falling harder now, drenching them but somehow feeling like a baptism, washing away the doubts, reaffirming their commitment. "Let us make this a story worth telling," Jake shouted, raising his fist into the air. "One that will echo beyond this moment." The crowd erupted into cheers once more, passion igniting in faces glowing despite the rain hammering down. It wasn't just about the meeting, it was about standing tall together, ready to face whatever came next. But as they rallied, a sharp crack sounded again, this time from the sky, lightning zipping through the dark clouds above, illuminating the determined faces of the community. Instinctively, the crowd shrank back, and just like that, doubt was back in the air. They looked up, fear creeping in again as the reality of the storm engulfed them. Would they run? Would they persist? The storm had raged for too long already, and Jake's heart raced again. Could they stand against nature's fury with the powerful winds of their ambitions behind them? As the rain poured down, soaking their clothes, a question hung in the heavy air: would they rise to face the lightning overhead or be left grasping for the fleeting hope that had sparked just moments before? The lightning crackled again, a vivid arc slicing through the dim sky. The onslaught of raindrops grew heavier, a torrential downpour soaking through jackets and into shoes, but the crowd stood still for a heartbeat longer. Jake stole a glance at Laura, her expression unwavering, as if she could stand before the lightning itself and dare it to strike. It grounded him in a moment, and he felt the swirling anxiety in his own chest begin to settle. Together, he urged the group, feeling a swell of courage ripple through him. "We are not alone in this. We stand for our community." The words ignited something in the others. Like a match to dry kindling, the energy crackled just like the storms above. They pushed away the fear that clung to their hearts, fists raised high, voices loud enough to drown out the storm. Together, they began chanting again, a fierce, united front against the tempest that threatened to tear them apart. "Stand firm. Stand together." With every repetition, strength surged through them, empowering each person to push back against the uncertainty that had begun to invade their spirit. Laura grinned, eyes sparkling despite the rain. Jake could feel the fire ignite in the hearts around him, blazing in the faces of familiar neighbors, friends, and even strangers united for a common cause. "Let us not wait for the city council meeting to make our voices heard," someone shouted from the crowd. "Let us take action today. Right here, right now." A wave of agreement rolled through the circle. Jake's heart raced as people began to share stories of their struggles, each narrative painting a different layer of despair over the same foundational issues they all felt: unheard, unseen. It was as if the storm had been a catalyst, pushing them to vocalize what they'd held back for too long. They began to brainstorm ideas for immediate action. A movement. A sit-in at City Hall. Flyers to spread the word. A community art project displaying their vision for a kinder, stronger town. The ideas bounced back and forth like a volleyball, each one more ambitious than the last, amplifying their shared excitement. In the middle of this electric moment, a loud crash resonated in the distance, a reminder that nature was still raging around them. The crowd flinched, but instead of retreating, they stood their ground, faces set with determination. "Did you hear that?" Jake called out to them. That's just the sound of the storm breaking. It can't stop us. Cheers erupted, rising above the roar of the rain as they embraced the chaos, converting fear into fuel for their hopes. Jake felt a rush of adrenaline flood through him, binding him to his neighbors in a way he had never imagined possible before today. But even as they stood tall against the backdrop of stormy skies, the doubt that had first crept and lingered in the corners of Jake's mind. Questions flared up again like the lightning. Was it enough? Were they truly prepared to face the pushback from the council, the potential for their efforts to be dismissed? In that moment of uncertainty, Laura caught his gaze, her voice steady and clear. We're doing this together, Jake. As long as we're united, we can withstand anything. Her conviction anchored him. Together, they had transformed fear into hope, chaos into determination. Their rallying cries became a heartbeat that echoed powerfully through the rain, defying the storm as they prepared for the next step. But deep inside him, Jake felt another storm brewing, one that wasn't just about external forces. It was a storm of expectations, of the unknown, of what this all could mean for their community. What if they failed? What if they were dismissed simply because they were just a group of voices in the rain? As the rain began to ease, leaving only a fine mist behind, he realized something. They were more than voices. They were a community. But could that be enough to take the next leap? Let us get it done, shouted someone on the outskirts, their voice reverberating with enthusiasm. Jake rallied alongside Laura, feeling the pulse of that shared conviction. But as they turned to set their plans into motion, a low rumble of thunder echoed in the distance. It wasn't the storm they could see, it was the storm of challenges ahead. Where would their voices carry them next? Would the ambitions they stoked burn brightly, or would they flicker out before they ever ignited into real change? As the debate swirled around him, he took a deep breath. Today was just the beginning. The moment hung before him weighted with possibility, and the real journey was just about to unfold. The mist hung in the air like a curtain, and the sounds of the crowd coalesced into a low hum. Jake's heart raced as he glanced around, watching the faces of his friends and neighbors, their expressions a mix of determination and hope. Rainwater dripped from their hair and into their eyes, but no one seemed to care. They were united, and that connection pulsed in the air, vibrant and electric. Let us get organized. Laura's voice sliced through the murmurs, commanding attention. We can't just stand here and shout. We need a plan. Jake nodded, feeling the urgency in her words resonate with his own thoughts. They were teetering on the edge of something powerful. If they were going to show the council that their voices mattered, it would take structure, effort, and relentless passion. Okay, let us form smaller teams, Jake suggested, finding his stride. Some can handle outreach, others can focus on art projects. We need flyers and social media posts to spread the word. The crowd perked up at the idea. People began breaking off into groups, pulling out their phones, jotting down ideas on whatever scraps of paper they could find. The energy was contagious, like a fever spreading, igniting their resolve. Enthusiasm hung in the air, palpable and warm against the backdrop of the fading storm. A woman near the front began drafting a flyer, her pen moving rapidly over the page. We need the message to be clear. If we want our community's voice heard, we need to tell them why it matters. That's right. Someone shouted. Our stories are the heart of this movement. Jake felt a swell of pride washing over him as he watched Laura working with a group to brainstorm slogans. She bounced ideas around, her laughter cutting through the gloom. It was hard to believe that a few hours ago, they had all felt so small and powerless. Now, they were a force to be reckoned with, but beneath the excitement lingered a thread of anxiety. What if they faced backlash? As if reading his mind, Laura caught his eye again. Jake, remember, she said softly, change doesn't come easy. Just because we're scared doesn't mean we stop fighting. He took a deep breath, her confidence wrapping around him like a warm blanket. She was right, they had already taken the first step. No one could take that away from them. As the rain ceased to pour, leaving a stillness tinged with unspoken emotions, Jake felt a tug at his heart. He had to find a way to make this bigger than just a moment. They needed to reach the people who had given up hope, those who felt that their voices would never matter. Let us share why we're doing this. He called out. Let us empower everyone. The more voices, the stronger we become. A few people nodded, their eyes brightening. One by one, they began to share their stories: the single mother fighting for better schools, the elderly couple worried about their neighborhood falling apart, a young man afraid he'd never be able to afford a home. Each story fueled the fire, weaving together an intricate tapestry of shared experiences, struggles, and hopes for a better future. In the haze of emotion and rain-soaked determination, the crowd no longer felt like a gathering, it felt like a family. As the last stories faded into silence, something unspoken filled the air, a renewed spirit driving them onward. Let us meet back here tomorrow, Laura announced, her voice strong and steady. Same time, same place. We'll be ready to take this to the next level. Nods of agreement bounced around, and Jake felt an exhilarating rush. They were all in this together. But as the sun began to peek through the clouds, a troubling thought crossed his mind. What would happen if they faced opposition from those who wanted to silence them? He looked at Laura, who still seemed unyieldingly determined. Are we prepared for pushback? He whispered, the gloom creeping back in. I believe we are, she replied confidently, though her eyes betrayed the slightest flicker of doubt. They were on the brink of something transformative. Would that transformation inspire change or provoke a backlash? And was their unity strong enough to withstand the storm yet to come? In that moment of uncertainty, Jake realized they were standing at a crossroads, one that would define not only their future but the very heart of their community. The next morning dawned with a vibrant energy that crackled in the air. Jake awoke with the sun inching through his window, golden rays spilling onto the floor, erasing the remnants of the storm from the night before. He sprang from bed, heart racing as memories of the previous day's gathering rushed back to him. Today was the day. Today, they would harness the momentum they had built, turning it into something tangible. With resolve, he quickly dressed and made his way to the park where they had all agreed to meet. The scene that awaited him upon arrival was nothing short of exhilarating. Groups of neighbors were gathered at different stations, their expressions bright with purpose. Flyers had been crafted, showcasing their stories and ambitions in bold colors. Laughter and excited chatter filled the air, and amidst the backdrop of trees and morning light, Jake felt a blissful swell of hope. Laura was at the center of it all, directing people with admirable ease. Let us focus on passing these flyers around town, she exclaimed, holding up the colorful paper. We want our voices to echo on every street. Who's with me? I'll go door to door, shouted a neighbor, already shoving a handful of flyers into his bag. Jake couldn't help but smile as he watched the enthusiasm ripple through the crowd. He stepped forward, taking in the eager faces around him. Let us share our stories online too. I know we have people on social media who can help us reach even more. The suggestion ignited another surge of energy, and several friends nodded excitedly. Their collective mission resonated, transforming uncertainties into a shared vision of hope. They were no longer just a community, they were an unstoppable force. As the teams mobilized, Jake felt layers of doubt shed away. But in the back of his mind swirled the same fear nagging at him from the previous day. They were vulnerable in their ambition. The council and their opposition loomed like shadows at the fringes. Jake, can I talk to you for a second? Laura's voice cut through his thoughts, her brow slightly furrowed. I think we should also prepare for any backlash. What if they try to intimidate us? Her concern echoed his own fears, and he nodded slowly, appreciating her attention to the potential danger. You're right. We should have a plan, a way to stay safe if things get heated. We can't let their fear silence us. Laura looked around, and her determination radiated fiercely. Let us gather everyone and remind them we're a family. We'll look out for each other. Nobody fights alone. Jake's heart swelled at her words. She was the embodiment of the spirit they needed. Calling everyone together, they formed a circle, reinforcing their commitment to one another. Stories were shared again, this time about their deep-rooted connections and histories, amplifying their unity. As they prepared to set off in teams, something shifted. A whisper traveled through the crowd like a gust of wind. Jake strained to hear, and his stomach dropped when he caught fragments of a conversation. "They're here, watching us," a voice murmured, eyes darting towards the park entrance. His heart pounded as he turned, uncertainty washing over him. Who was watching? Fear rippled through the crowd. Their fight now felt closer to a conflict, a possibility of confrontation looming. The peaceful energy, once bright and hopeful, darkened slightly as whispers spread. Laura caught his eye and squeezed his hand, her eyes shining with that same fierce determination. Together, she mouthed, a vow that steadied him amid the rising tension. That it was becoming clear, their struggle was only beginning. Anger surged through Jake, mixed with an unexpected resolve. They wouldn't let fear take control. Stepping forward, he raised his voice again. "We can't let them silence us. We are strong, and we are here for each other." The crowd began to cheer, a wave of energy sweeping over them once more. Jake felt weight shift at his back, support like a warm shield. But as he turned to face the potential threat, a figure emerged from the tree line, dressed sharply in a suit that felt out of sync with the day's fervor. A chill ran through him. Who were they, and what did they want? Jake's heart lurched with a new question bubbling beneath the bravado. Could this outsider be the one threatening everything they had worked for? As Jake squared his shoulders, ready to confront whatever challenge lay ahead, he thought of his friends and neighbors behind him. Did they understand the stakes? And as he prepared to stand firm, a small part of him hesitated. What would happen if this figure had the power to ripple their dreams apart? The figure stepped into the open, their expression unreadable, flanked by a couple of stern-looking associates. The crowd held their collective breath, anticipation thick in the air. Jake felt Laura's grip tighten on his arm, a reassuring anchor amid the whirlwind of change. "Let us find out what they want," he whispered to her, determination replacing anxiety. With a deep breath, he stepped forward, drawing attention from the townsfolk, who shifted their weight like restless waves along the shore. "What can we do for you?" Jake asked, voice steady but filled with the weight of deep-rooted courage. His tone carried the collective strength of their united front. The man in the suit adjusted his tie slightly before responding, "I'm here to clarify some misunderstandings regarding your movement." He eyed the crowd skewed by uncertainty. "We've received complaints about the renovations and the gathering itself. I think it's best if you disband for the day." The reaction was immediate. A chorus of gasps shot through the crowd, anger sparking like electricity. Jake felt his face flush. "We want to disband. We're working to improve this community," he shot back, this time framing his voice with conviction. Just as he spoke, he sensed the wave of support swell behind him, people applauding, bolstered by shared hopes and fierce resolve. "Jake!" Laura called from the back, her voice ringing clear as she stepped up beside him. "This isn't just about park renovations. This is about our voices being heard. This community needs change, and we're not afraid to fight for it." She stepped closer to the man, defiance radiating off her. "We want to let you intimidate us. We're more united than you realize." The figure's composure faltered under Laura's fiery gaze. Yet, with a well-practiced indifference, he straightened up, his eyes narrowed. "You think you can face the consequences? There are regulations to follow. This charm you feel around you, it won't withstand scrutiny. It will crumble." Jake felt all eyes on him. This was the moment of reckoning, and he couldn't back down now. He lifted his chin, channels of hope coursing through him. "No matter the consequences, we're standing together. We have stories that matter, stories of struggle, of hope. We're here not just for us but for the generations to come. We'll meet all regulations, we'll comply, but your intimidation tactics will not work. This is our town." Stirred by his words, the crowd erupted in applause. Strangers became friends in that moment, passion binding them tighter. Jake could see the skepticism crumbling around him, the resolve to fight rekindled, each murmured affirmation a thread in their unbreakable tapestry, but the suit remained stoic, wrestling to keep his expression neutral. "All right. But I cannot promise that the council will be as forgiving. You all need to be careful, he warned, holding steady under the stir of emotion from the crowd. Then, with a last dismissive glance, he turned, flanked by his associates, retreating back into the cover of trees. The air crackled, the tension dissolving into sighs of relief. Jake felt a surge of joy when he turned to face the crowd, their faces alight with renewed energy and passion. We did it. Together. He shouted, arms raised high, electrifying the gathering with hope. Laura's laughter bubbled up, and she embraced Jake tightly, her joy infectious. You were amazing, Jake. She exclaimed, her eyes shimmering with tears of triumph. We're really doing this. The crowd erupted in cheers and laughter, their fears washed away like the lingering drops of rain. Plans flowed freely as people regrouped, more energizing ideas sparking conversations. Children's voices mingled with adults as they animatedly discussed projects, together crafting a path for their shared future. As ideas flowed like the sun breaking through the clouds, Jake realized this was only the beginning. This community was rising, stronger than they could have imagined, united through connection rather than division. They had dared to dream and fight, and now the future stood before them with open arms. Jake turned to Laura and they shared a look that spoke volumes. Everyone around them had transformed, no longer strangers bound by skepticism, they were friends forging their destinies together. Let us plan our next meeting, Jake said, the ideas spinning in his head with the momentum of every spark of joy around him. We'll do this. Together, Laura reassured him. The celebration erupted around them, laughter echoing as they nested under the sun, and in those moments together, they knew they were not just creating a park, they were building a legacy, a testament to resilience, community, and hope. And with the sounds of hope reverberating among them, Jake realized how far they had come. They would rise, challenge the storms together, and thrive as a community, hand in hand. Always hand in hand. And now it's time for you to act. Subscribe immediately to the channel so you don't miss the next exclusive stories. Leave a like now to keep this momentum going. Every click fuels our journey. Comment your feelings about this ending, your voice matters. Share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation. You need to show your support. Don't wait not even one more second, be part of this movement.